we're coming off of a long out of state whitetail series, and
Okay.
got talking with you guys and thought, hey, we should bring you in to kind of put a capstone on this series on how to go out of state and hunt whitetail. So before we get into what we're here to talk about, I want to do a little intro. You mind introducing yourself and what you do?
Yeah. Well, James, good to see you this morning. I'm Aaron Ambur, president of TUO Gear. So yeah, we're certainly passionate about everything from Western big game to whitetail, and look forward to talking to you today about what the whitetail means to our brand and what the whitetail is to your passion and mine as well.
Yeah, well, we're coming off kind of early season, so a lot of Western stuff out of the way
Yeah.
for the guys and gals tuning in. We've got a pretty cool film coming out with a goat hunt that Joe just did, and
Oh yeah.
he'll score well.
What an
So
incredible hunt, though. I can't wait to see everything that comes out.
they filmed it, but the video guy, our video guy Jordan, is real secretive whenever we do it. So I know bits and pieces of the hunt, but I've not had like the official story, which is crazy. But yeah, I gotta wait with everybody else, I guess.
Yeah, it's exciting. Killers out killing.
That's right. Yeah. So I've had you on before, like you said, president of TUO Gear. Anybody that follows us and looks around where I'm right now, I'm in TUO HQ, and we've been wearing it for a long time. But I wanted to get together to talk about late season. So we've gone through steps for how to find success out of state, and we want to get kind of ready for when the temperatures drop a little
Yeah.
bit. And you've got some new stuff that came out, and so I thought this would be a really good time to talk about it staying warm in the cold, and you'd be the guy to talk to.
Yeah, for sure. Excited to talk about it today.
So Nivor, like, what is it? Tell, yeah.
Yeah, so Nivor, so when you think about where we came from a tool brand, is that definitely our pillars and our foundational way we grew the brand is in the West. And you think about the West from highly active to stationary activities and everything in between, it definitely puts the greatest demands on what you take to the field. So, even though we're super passionate about the West and where we found it, we have a lot of passion chasing whitetails. And when you think about late season whitetail, one of the key things that I think is so important is keeping in the stand.
Yeah.
I don't know how you hunt, James, but I will tell you from October 31st call to Halloween into November, you just don't know what you're going to get. Now, the last couple of years, it's certainly been a little warmer than we like to see it. We want those deer rutting during the day, and rutting during the day means cooler temperatures at day versus force them in the night activity. And so when I think about some of the conditions, I mean, it can be cold in November.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have driving winds, you can have really cool temperatures, and certainly you don't get a lot of variability in the day. It can be really cool when you go out there at dark 30 and you want to sit all day. Cause I really like, certainly when the sun's coming up, when the sun's going down, but my favorite part of the day is after you think things are quieting down, that 9, 10 o'clock arena, and where those bucks, they'll be, I think, when they get into lockdown or when the seek says they'll be locked down, they'll get back on their feet trying to find another doe. And what I think is the most important is making sure you're in the stand, and to stay in the stand and not want to go back to the truck. You're like, I want to be comfortable. So keeping in the stand is a big thing. And that's really delivered through Nivor.
Yeah.
Nivor is a thermal mat garment that obviously has great value from keeping you warm and keeping the stand. So that was a key thing. It does have 100% windproof to it. So keeping that driving wind. And I don't know how about you, Ben, but I've been times in a tree where I'm not in a big tree. And at the end of the day, I'm as small as I can be because you're doing anything you can do against the tree to stay warm.
Yeah.
But inevitably there's wind circulating. So you really want to keep, certainly warm, and keeping the wind off is one thing as well. That's super important.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's a lot of challenges when you go west, right? Like physical challenges and everything else. But that when it's like November 2 and it's cold and it's 9:30, 10 o'clock, a lot of me wants to get out of the stand. It's just like you said, if you get a little chill, you're just adding to all the reasons why it's like, I could go back to the truck for a little bit. The deer probably already moved, and you and I, both know it's like, actually, that's when a lot of guys go in.
Yeah.
And what happens is they'll move right there. And that's when a lot of the biggest bucks last year, with the Nivor in my backpack headed out to a stand, I I shot a buck at like 9 o'clock walking out, right? I
Yeah.
had to get my daughter dropped off, and I'm walking out, and this buck is working a scrape, and then a rub line that he had, and then the rest is history. So yeah, it's an important time, and like you said, it's hard to stay in the stand. If you're even a little uncomfortable, it's like, I'll just, you're hunched over, you've been really cold in the morning, and right after the sun kind of peaks up is when it really gets cold for that little snap, and it's like everything's stacked against you and you want to head in.
Well, and that combined with a stationary activity, like, when you're not moving around doing things, and I'm sure you've done everything like I've done, which you're doing toe lifts and you're doing slow seated squats and getting back up, not trying to make much move, just to get the body moving. And, so definitely that's a key feature, keeping people in the stand. And to your point, you want to be comfortable, and it's super important. Like, I was in Iowa 3 years ago where we had that unbelievable cold blast that came through the country in early November. I mean, it was like legit cold. And so again, we're not just talking about northern cold. We're talking about, I was in southern Iowa. So you just don't know what to be prepared for. And that's why this piece, the jack and bib, are super important to the success of the whitetail hunter and to the build out of our assortment.
OnX is the title sponsor of our podcast here at the Fair Chase, and it's a must-have app for all of us who love to explore the outdoors. Whether you're hunting or hiking or fly fishing, OnX gives you detailed, accurate maps right at your fingertips. With property boundaries, topographical features, and trail data, you'll always know where you are and where you're headed. You'll also likely be able to figure out where that big buck is headed to. Plus, their offline maps mean you're covered even in the most remote locations. OnX is the ultimate tool for outdoor navigation, making every adventure safer and more enjoyable. Download OnX today and explore with confidence.
Yeah, and I like that too, because my general way of doing whitetail in the cold is I'll throw on, when it comes to your guys' stuff, like the merino pants, and basically this shirt right here, and I'll walk out and be very cold on the walk. And I'll throw this stuff in my bag, and in the past, I've done layers. I'll get to my stand, I'll maybe put on puffy pants, and then another coat, and then another coat. But we're here with this suit, it's like, oh, I get out there, I throw on the bibs, throw on the coat, I'm right up the tree. It's like no problem at all.
Well, two things that I'd add to that. I'm always like, you got to be cold when you get out of the truck to get to your stand. And most of the time I'm walking quarter mile, maybe a half mile in some situations. So you want to be cold when you get out of the truck. And most of the time I'm in the 250 bottoms, the merino bottoms, 250 top. And I'm like, might be nipping a little bit. I'm a little cold, but I know once I get walking my rubber boots, I have things strapped on as well. And so that's how I do it. And I think there's definitely, James, that crossover where I go from layering, in other words, your base bottom, maybe another bottom, you're doing 2 or 3 layers on top, to, I just want to wear my base in and have one good bib, one good jacket, make it simple. Because otherwise I'm a big layering guy, but at some point I just want to switch over, less layering, better shell components, protective shell, if you will, whether it's jacket and bib. And it's simple, because there's enough shit going on. When you're trying to get to your stand, get there quiet, get up in the tree, and you want it as simple as you can as well.
Well, we talk about it a lot too. It's like the beginning of the year, the amount of things that I take in the woods compared to like when it's the late mid rut and I've been going every day between. It's like I have a ton of stuff with me. And then finally when it's like November 10 and I've been doing this for like 40 days, right? And I just want to be like, I just want it to be simple. I don't want to think it's the morning, it's cold. I just want my stuff on and to be comfortable. So that's a big deal. So this just came out. This is just coming out. I know you guys, we talked a lot about kind of trying to push the envelope in design and material. So like, tell me, as you've developed it, like, what has that experience been like? What were you looking to do? How have things changed?
Yeah, well, so if I was to collectively say, what are the driving priorities that we took into the design of this? I touched on one, keeping you in the stand, which means thermal value, wind protection, etc. Really the second thing we went after is making sure it's quiet. So there, if you look at it, and we'll talk about the product, it has a nice micro fleece exterior fabric. So definitely you want to be quiet as well. Like I say this, I don't plan on not having my bow drawn and a buck at 10 yards below me on a quiet morning,
right,
where you feel like you're locked down. I don't plan for that. But I do prepare for that. So even though I like seeing the buck come, I like drawing, when he's behind a tree, I want noise and wind rustling. You have to prepare for the toughest situations, that he might get below you. You're locked down, you can't move. So I think being quiet and be able to draw your bow back in a very silent fashion is definitely one of the things that we as whitetail hunters think about. The next thing you have is your ears are as close to your garment, way closer than the ears of the deer to your garment. So we have this human enigma as well with wanting to sound quiet when our ears are so close to our body. And I think that's a big psyche thing for the hunter. Cause I can tell you, like, there's people like Jared Mills, he'll be wearing our soft shell jacket and pant. I will tell you, soft shells are good, but they're not definitely as quiet as a micro fleece exterior like we're talking about here. So I can tell you the deer's not hearing him, but it's got this psyche, and you want to feel like you're, stealthy when you're drawing your bow. So the third thing was really to be quiet and have a really nice face fabric where you could feel like you could fool the deer's ears. And I would tell you another important component, James, was, when you talk about traditional late season gear, it can get bulky, right? And I wouldn't say this is like super slim, like it's not like layering up and using a soft shell jacket and pant, but we made sure that we zoned the insulation so it wasn't puffy everywhere. We put a little less in the legs, we put a little less in the arms, so you didn't have this bulk in your arms. And profile was important, because saddle hunting, you think about, a lot of times you're in a smaller tree, and I hear a lot about, I just want a smaller profile, yet I want to be warm.
Right.
And a lot of times those things fight, because puffy inevitably is more insulation, more thermal value, that you got to try to compact that and zone it so you have a small profile in the tree. So those are really the driving elements. And I would say last was the camo.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about verse camo. I was excited when we created the camo, because we were all about subalpine, alpine, tree line, plains. Does the camo pattern work there? And then one of our guys in the studio, frankly, he's here listening to us today, Craig, they went out and shot some late season whitetail pictures a couple of years ago, because I wanted to make sure burst camo could not only work in the aforementioned situation of the West, but the idea was always to be in whitetail, and we wanted to make it simple so you didn't have to think about, well, I got my whitetail pattern, I got my Western pattern, and, we want to simplify that. So the imagery and the versatility and the effectiveness of the verse camo in the tree, we had it from mid-fall to late fall when snowing.
Oh, yeah.
James, and it is phenomenal, the openness of the pattern, believe it or not, when you're looking up.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. So we nailed those things in this Nivor, and that's why I couldn't be more excited about it.
Quick shout out to another amazing sponsor of ours, Kifaru International. If you're like us and love hunting in some of the toughest places, you know how crucial having the right gear is. Kifaru makes some of the toughest, most reliable backpacks and tents out there, and it's all made right here in America. Whether you're hunting in the backcountry or headed to your favorite deer stand, Kifaru has you covered. Keep your eyes out this year, especially as they're launching a ton of amazing new products like the new Arc frame that just came out. So next time you gear up for an adventure, make sure to check out Kifaru International.
When you first, so I've been wearing it, maybe this is my third year. When I first got it, I was interested because what drew me to the pattern itself is it reminded me of a few older patterns that were my favorites, with that bigger design with more open space. I'm saying it as I look at the models behind us, but I love that. And then what I didn't love about the older stuff is they were big, but they didn't have kind of that finer stuff when you're closer. And so, I've had great success with, everything from out west to, like you said, up in a tree, has been phenomenal for me.
It's one thing for us to be passionate, and I love stories like you're telling me, because, you always want to be authentic, and you want the camo. Camo patterns are break up the human silhouette. That's what they're about. And and I'm certainly a big solids guy too. I would tell you deer hunting in general in the tree, if you're not moving, you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
But inevitably you have to make a move. Critter goes right instead of left. And,
Yep.
and this whole camo thing is important to that. And I hear stories like you, I hear stories from others that, Jared Mills, the guys out west are like, man, it's a really effective camo pattern. Like you said, the further away you get, the lights and darks separate. So that's why it really inevitably makes a really good tree pattern along with the finite design in that.
Well, and for me, I do a lot of tree stand hunting, but I would say about, saddle hunting, but I would say I do about maybe 50% of my deer hunting on the ground.
Yeah.
In natural blinds, or I'm in the grass. And so, yeah, I mean, you can wear solid, but you're not like doing yourself favor when you're like in the stuff. And so historically I'm like, oh, I'll have to get leafy camo out and stuff, which works, but it's kind of in the way. So no, this has been like a good middle ground for that.
Well, what's great about the ground is that, like, if you're on the ground and there's no horizon behind you, say you're on a side hill, you actually blend in pretty good.
Yeah.
Equally, if you've ever been at that, like a little bit below the horizon of me and a little bit it's above the horizon with that openness and the light starting to hit you, I could stand you on the horizon through some broken woods, and that same effect you get in the tree, you get on the ground, and it's just a great combination of colors allow you to be broken above the horizon or on the ground above the horizon or fully on the ground where you got full ground background. So it's amazing. Again, that's why we call it very versatile.
Well, and I think back to when we first started talking, I had seen a picture of just fabric with the design on it laid in different locations before I even saw the clothing or anything else. And that was what got us all excited. We're like, okay, this actually, this looks like pretty sweet, and it hits things that we've liked in the past. So let's talk about the pieces a minute. So this is a 2-piece set. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what they are.
Yeah. So jacket and bib, and a lot of times late season, I think it's so important to wear a bib. And why that's important is you don't have a break in your waistline. You have, coverage all the way up to your chest and your back. So you think about kidneys, you think about your chest, you have an extra layer, if you will, warmth and wind protection there. And then you complement that with the jacket. You have that extra amount of protection there. So, again, the jacket and bib, just great combination. And it's a very, I would say, typical silhouette for late season hunting. And it really maximizes the benefit. And then obviously sitting in a tree, sometimes your jacket will come up a little bit. You just have no wind coming up and getting you when those hard driving winds. And all of us love when there's a big cold front coming through. And what's a big cold front usually mean? Change of wind, driving wind,
a little precipitation sometimes.
Precipitation too. So it's super effective when you combine a jacket and bib.
The bibs, I'll wear a bib even when it's not that cold out. When it might be cold, like I'll just bring it and I'll be like, I can unzip, open stuff up, and then it's like. So I spent a lot of my year last year just wearing the bib, even when it was not terribly cold out. Yeah. But what I liked about the jacket is the jacket has a thinner layer where the bib and the jacket would overlap.
Yep.
Because in the past, I've had it where it's like you have like a Santa Claus belly going because you've got so much insulation, and then drawing your bow and it just kind of messes you up.
And that layering, like you said, we reduced some of the insulation in the top of the bib, reduced a little bit in the front of the jacket that kept full insulation on your back, thinned it up on the arms. That combination, when your belly in front of your jacket comes to the very front of your chest on the bib, that combined reduction allows you not to be that puffy factor. And one of the things that I'm excited about, I know you've worn the Clement puffy jacket.
Yeah.
So as for you listeners that don't know it, it's a very packable, lightweight puffy jacket where I say the weight's really low and the thermal value is really high. And what we use is our proprietary Paralite insulation. So we use that Paralite insulation zoned, if you will, different amounts in different parts of the garment. We incorporate that, and it's a Nivor piece. And that insulation package, I'm telling you, is just rock star.
Yep.
From being light, not being bulky, yet giving you great thermal value.
Love it. Yeah, that's worked well. I've talked at length about how much I love the Clement. What I like, and I last year had worn the Nivor stuff, but it was a prototype. It wasn't the wind proof.
Oh yeah.
And so, you know, I've said for the longest time, Jared and I will spend a lot of time talking about it. We've had great pieces in the past from all these different companies and even building our own, but it's like, if you don't have windproof, it's crazy how fast the heat just dissipates, just out, right? And so I'm very much looking forward to putting that to use this year.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up. So when we were, we do a lot of field testing. Obviously, you were involved in field testing last year, and we were, you know, I talked about those things that we wanted to accomplish. Our original prototypes is we didn't have our AeroGuard technology, which is a windproof technology. And back to this whole ear thing, I was really on the fence, like, do we just pay off and be more quiet, even though I know that deer can't hear us, for that perceived, you know, that perception the consumer is going to have. And so we went out first prototype without AeroGuard, and then we got some feedback, and I know we wanted to do it. So I was like, guys, let's go put that AeroGuard in there. Let's see how quiet it really is. And I'm telling you, that was a good example of feedback from real guys out doing it.
Yeah.
Right. We like to say we do it. We do quite a bit, but not as much as guys like you that we can count on that are out there every day. So we put that AeroGuard windproof in there, and it's been phenomenal. And I will tell you, from what you gave up from a sound perspective or the human hearing yourself was nothing compared to the thermal value you get, because I even go back to one of the most famous technology is Gore-Tex, right? Yeah. And in my past, we did a lot of customer surveys, and they all thought Gore-Tex was to keep them warm. Well, Gore-Tex, as most people know on the show, is all about waterproof.
Yeah.
And the thing you get with Gore-Tex, yeah, you get rain protection, but the biggest thing, and why consumers said it was warm, is because you get wind protection. Right. So that's essentially what we have in here is a windproof layer that stops all that wind, because that zaps you. You get that driving wind,
which is typical in November. Yep.
Any of that heat that you have that you're sewing up here and keeping you warm gets dissipated.
Yeah.
So I think it's an important improvement we made, and it's just great that we took feedback and we knew what we wanted to do, but we're hesitant, and we got affirmation. Way more giving up that little bit of sound to get that.
Well, I don't know that I would have noticed the sound. Yeah. Maybe.
I'm kind of pretty prude on that.
Yeah, I was going to say your ears are probably tuned in. But in the past, what I've done is worn wind shirts.
Yeah.
You know, you get a wind shirt, you throw it on. I throw it on over my base, under everything else, and that's fine. But again, it's like there's one layer, and then there's another layer, and it's like I just want simple. I want to get up the tree as fast as I can, especially that time of year.
Well, the other thing I think that helped is that I talk about the exterior fabric. It's a Sherpa fleece. And I think the other thing you get, if everyone's been at a sound studio, you know how you foam up on the wall to absorb some of that Sherpa fleece, because it's high pile. Mm-hmm. You get some of the sound absorption from that as well. So that combined with, you know, the Aerolite, or the AeroGuard,
the wind,
windproof, that combination actually dampens as well. So it's a package, and, you know, at the end of the day, it's a jacket and bib, James. Yeah. But I'll tell you, the ingredients, just like a cook, the little ingredients you put in there is what makes or break taking it from, hey, that's just a normal jacket and bib, to an effective killing, staying in the stand all day long, disrupting your human pattern, being quiet, being lethal for that, you know, practice for the whole year, months, days, and all comes down to a second of truth.
Yeah.
Where you got to make it happen. And, you know, this garment, I think, is well engineered to help you make that second choice, that second decision, and deliver that shot.
Yeah. I'm excited about it. We'll be taking, obviously, all around Michigan, even in spots this year in Michigan. You'll be able to hunt out through January now, which means I'll be needing it for the cold, but we'll be heading out of state to hunt a bunch of places like Wisconsin with the guys from Kafaru. So we're going to put it to the test this year again with the windproof. Last year was lucky for me. Both the bucks in Michigan that I shot, I was either wearing it or was headed out to go put it on. So like I felt like whenever I had it with me, I was a little extra deadly. And so, no, I appreciate you coming on. everybody check it out. Do you want to tell where people can go find this information and where they can buy it?
Yeah, a couple things. Definitely follow us on our social channels, between Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. The team's doing a great job, and partners like you providing really good content. So not only is it fun, it's informational. So definitely check out our social channels. And then our TUOGear.com is our e-commerce platform where you can actually go and transact and learn more about the product as well. So I would tell people, if they're not even ready to buy, just come follow our fun story. We're out chasing elk right now out west, so we got a lot of that coming through the airwaves, and I'm sure by this time the consumers will see it. We'll be in full-fledged whitetail mode, and we'll have people like like yourselves out doing whitetail, and we'll have a lot of fun things going on. So even if you're not ready to buy, just come follow along, be part of the journey, and then the point where you're like, I'd like to try something different. I watched TUO Gear, and I'm not quite sure yet. I think through those experiences, you'll be comfortable, man. We care a lot, James, about what we do. And even though we're talking about, Jack and Dip today, we're actually real people out there doing it.
Yeah.
And have, professional relationships like this, but they're personal relationships. And I'll tell you, we carry a deep burden, in this building that, it's got to work, and it's got to help people be successful. And it's not a head passion. It's not a hard passion. I tell people this passion for the outdoors and chasing whitetail and Western big game for TUO Gear comes from our toes, which means it embodies our whole being. And we do not want to let people down. So I'm telling you that the trust that people have given us through being part of this experience, we're just super humbled. Have relationships, James, with you guys, and you guys are out beating it up and having success. I'm humbled. I'm humbled by this whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm excited though as well.
Well, it's been fun, and beating it up. The guys just got back from British Columbia for goats, and I had lent our camera guy the gators. He brought him back, talk about beat up and not great. They look like terrible now. I don't know what he was doing out there, but try not to die for those guys for a bit. That's another story, though, that we'll tell here soon. But anyways, well, thank you, Aaron, for coming on. Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for listening in. We'll have a lot more of this stuff coming.
All right. Thank you very much.